Wedding vows are extremely important. We should not take these vows lightly. Let's look at Bill and Jane taking the traditional wedding vow. Do you, Bill, take Jane to be your wife? Will you love her, comfort her, honor and keep her in sickness and in health, for richer, for poorer, for better, for worse, in sadness and in joy, to cherish and continually bestow upon her your heart's deepest devotion, forsaking all others, keep yourself only unto her as long as you both shall live? Bill says, I will. Unfortunately, some with their great wisdom and intellect have come up with another idea for a wedding vow. They have modernized the traditional wedding vow for a more personalized one. Now some say their wedding vow with words like this: for as long as we continue to love each other, or for as long as our love shall last, or until our time together is over. How foolish, making plans for an eventual breakup of their wedding day. When you find someone, make sure they are the type of person you want to live with the rest of your life. I speak more about this on Straight Talk Dating. When I got married, I made that vow that said, for as long as we both shall live. We combined our bank accounts and all our belongings. That was 53 years ago. Regardless what happens to my wife, I vowed I'll always be by her side. If she's sick and disabled, I'll be there for her. I've told my sweetheart numerous times, I'll always take care of her regardless what happens. A number of years ago, my wife had difficulty walking because of a problem with one of her knees. We had a cruise ship planned to take a trip to Europe. I took a wheelchair along and wheeled her around. I limited myself because of her weakened condition. There are some who will leave when they discover their mate has a life-threatening disease. Elizabeth Cohen of the CNN Medical Unit reports, quote, terminally ill cancer patients have a higher than average divorce rate, and it's almost always the husband leaving a sick wife, end of quote. Imagine how that woman feels. How would you like it if you become sick and the one you married said, remember, we made a vow for as long as our love shall last. Well, my love is gone, so I'm leaving. You'd be devastated. Let's look at a traditional vow. We'll look at Jane's vow. Do you, Jane, take Bill to be your husband? Will you love him, comfort him, honor and keep him in sickness and in health? The vow continues, for richer, for poorer, for better, for worse, in sadness and in joy. Regardless of tragedies or income, we're sticking together. One of the great difficulties in marriages is finance. Let me say this very strongly. Beware of going into debt. Do everything possible to avoid it. Don't think your credit card is a free license to buy. One day you'll have to pay it all back, and with much interest. Go to Straight Talk and click on Debt and Credit Cards. I speak about that. Be wise with your finances. Don't go into debt to have a fancy wedding. Don't saddle yourself with debt that will take years to recover. There's another important aspect of the traditional vow: to cherish and continually bestow upon him your heart's deepest devotion, forsaking all others. That means there'll be no more love affairs with others. Will you be tempted once you're married? Absolutely. We're human. I wish that somehow there's be some internal switch that I could click on, that the only time I have sexual feelings would be with my wife. It doesn't exist. We have to will to be pure and take a strong stand against sexual temptations. There are handsome men and gorgeous women that have no qualms about going with someone who is married. But you made a vow, forsaking all others. Let's examine the end of that vow. Keep yourself only unto him as long as you both shall live. Honey, we're getting married and we will stay together regardless what happens until the good Lord takes either one of us home. We'll have disagreements, we'll have difficulties, but we made a vow we're going to stick it out together regardless what happens. Then Jane says, I will. My wife and I made a vow to remain together, whether for richer, for poorer, for better, for worse, in sadness and in joy. It took me 10 long years to write my first book, Schools in Crisis, Training for Success or Failure. I took a year's leave of absence from teaching as a high school teacher in New York City to write that book. During that time, in order to investigate the schools, I became a substitute teacher and went to 27 different schools in all the 5 boroughs of New York City. We have 5 children, and I used up practically all my savings when I was on that leave of absence. I told my wife not to purchase cake for dessert in order to save money. My wife never complained. She was willing to live a poorer lifestyle because of my vision of trying to transform the educational system. Today I own 3 businesses, and one of them is the largest of its kind west of the Mississippi River. It didn't matter to my wife whether we were rich or poor. An interesting incident happened to my wife and I. A publishing company had a booth at the American Library Association in Washington, D.C. Since our hotel was close to a nearby park, close to the White House, we decided to rest a while on a bench under a flowering crepe myrtle tree. I had my arm around my wife, and I was holding her hand, and 2 women happened to be walking by, and one of them asked with tears in her eyes, "How long have you been married?" "We've been married 52 years, I replied. We talked a while, and this woman told us that she hoped she would have a marriage like us. Her 10-year marriage was filled with difficulties. Here we were, 2 old people just simply in an unobtrusive way showing our affection for one another. Everyone longs to be loved. It's universal. My love for my wife isn't a put on. We kiss each other when we get up in the morning, when one of us leaves the home, when we return, and when we go to bed. I often tell my wife I love her. Don't laugh. I still call my wife sweetie, honey, sweetheart, babe, and Schatzi. That's German for sweetie. My goal in my life is to make my wife happy. And that's her goal too. Now, we're not perfect, but the ideal marriage is when both husband and wife constantly aim to make each other happy. Often I introduce my wife as my sweetheart. When I mention how long we're married, the response I often get is, "Don't hear marriage is lasting that long anymore." Why not? Too many have swallowed the lies of a popular culture. Everyone wants a happy future, and most would want their future to include a happy family. But today in America, we're witnessing the breakdown of the family. If the current trend continues, they expect 50% of marriages will end in divorce. Let's break this trend of divorce and get back to making vows that we mean to keep. Let's stop living selfish lives and start living by the golden rule where we desire to make other people happy. And that's the secret of a successful marriage. It's not just me, 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 me. It's thinking of others and putting yourself in other people's shoes. I wish you a happy future and a happy marriage.